Eugene Bryant's finger hovered over the trigger, his target in sight. The wounded Rakari commander lay vulnerable before him, unaware of the imminent danger. This was not how he expected his mission to end, nor how he imagined making an alien aroused. The human soldier had infiltrated the Rakari military outpost on Nexus 4 with a clear objective: eliminate Ymir, the high-ranking female commander responsible for recent attacks on human colonies. His advanced stealth technology had allowed him to breach the outpost's defenses undetected, bringing him face-to-face with his quarry. As Eugene crept into Ymir's private quarters, the acrid smell of alien blood filled his nostrils. The Rakari commander was sprawled on her bed, her scaled skin marred by deep gashes and burns. She had clearly sustained severe injuries in a recent battle, leaving her in a weakened state. Eugene's training screamed at him to complete his mission, to end the threat Ymir posed to human lives. But as he watched her labored breathing, a seed of doubt took root in his mind. Was this how humanity would prove its superiority? By executing a defenseless enemy? Suddenly, Ymir's eyes snapped open. She sensed Eugene's presence, her body tensing with fear and defiance. She tried to reach for a weapon, but her injuries betrayed her. With a pained growl, she collapsed back onto the bed, her eyes locked onto Eugene's cloaked form. In that moment, Eugene made a decision that would alter the course of both their lives. Instead of squeezing the trigger, he holstered his weapon and reached for his field medical kit. Driven by a mix of curiosity and compassion, he approached the wounded Rakari. Ymir's eyes widened in confusion as Eugene deactivated his cloaking device. She watched, bewildered, as the human began treating her wounds with gentle efficiency. The sting of disinfectant and the cool touch of bandages replaced the expected killing blow. As Eugene worked, he noticed an unexpected change in Ymir's demeanor. Her breathing quickened, but not from fear. A flush spread across her alien features, and her body trembled beneath his touch. The Rakari's biology was reacting to the human's medical compounds and physical contact in an unforeseen way, triggering a response akin to arousal. Ymir, caught between pain and these new confusing sensations, found herself seeing the human soldier in a different light. The enemy she had expected to end her life was instead bringing her relief and unexpected pleasure. Eugene, too, grappled with the implications of his actions. By sparing Ymir, he had jeopardized his mission and potentially put countless human lives at risk. Yet as he looked into her alien eyes, he saw not a monster, but a sentient being capable of complex emotions. As Ymir's condition stabilized, the sound of approaching footsteps shattered the moment. A Rakari patrol was nearing the commander's quarters. Eugene's heart raced as he quickly reactivated his cloaking device and searched for a hiding spot. Ymir, still reeling from the unexpected turn of events, made a split-second decision. She closed her eyes and feigned sleep, her newly bandaged wounds hidden beneath a thin blanket. Eugene held his breath as the door slid open, Rakari soldiers filing into the room. He pressed himself against the wall, invisible but vulnerable. As the patrol inspected their wounded commander, Eugene knew that his choices in the next few moments would determine not only his fate, but potentially the future of human-Rakari relations. The tension in the room was palpable as Eugene waited, his mind racing with possibilities. Would Ymir betray his presence? Would he be forced to fight his way out? Or had this unexpected encounter opened the door to something neither of them could have anticipated? The Rakari patrol's heavy footsteps echoed through the room as Eugene pressed himself against the wall, his cloaking device his only shield against discovery. Lieutenant Kraz, a tall, imposing figure with slate-gray scales, led the group into Ymir's quarters. His amber eyes scanned the room, narrowing as they fell upon the scattered medical supplies. "Commander Ymir," Kraz called out, his voice a low rumble. "Are you awake?" Ymir remained motionless on the bed, her chest rising and falling in a convincing mimicry of sleep. Eugene held his breath, acutely aware of how close the patrol was to his position. He could smell the metallic scent of their armor and the faint musk of their alien biology. Kraz moved closer to the bed, his clawed hand reaching out to inspect the bandages visible beneath Ymir's blanket. Eugene's heart hammered in his chest as the lieutenant's movements brought him dangerously close to the hidden human. In a split-second decision, Eugene activated a small EMP device on his belt. The room plunged into darkness for a moment before emergency lights flickered on, bathing everything in an eerie red glow. The sudden power fluctuation sent the Rakari soldiers into a flurry of motion, weapons raised and eyes darting around the room. "Possible human infiltration," Kraz barked, his scales filled. "Search every corner." Eugene used the confusion to silently slide along the wall, positioning himself behind a large storage unit. The acrid smell of ozone from the EMP lingered in the air, mingling with the tension that now permeated the room. As the patrol began their thorough search, Ymir stirred on the bed. She blinked slowly, her eyes adjusting to the dim red light as she pushed herself up on one elbow. "What is the meaning of this intrusion?" she demanded, her voice hoarse but carrying the unmistakable tone of authority. Kraz turned to face her, his posture stiffening. "Commander, we detected anomalies and suspected a possible human presence. Your injuries, they seem to have improved rapidly." Ymir's eyes narrowed, her scaled brow furrowing. "Are you questioning my resilience, Lieutenant? Our superior biology and advanced healing techniques are more than capable of addressing such wounds." Eugene watched from his hiding spot, impressed by Ymir's quick thinking and commanding presence. He could see the doubt in Kraz's eyes wavering in the face of her unwavering authority. "But the medical supplies, the power fluctuation," Kraz persisted, gesturing to the scattered items. "Enough!" Ymir snapped, sitting up fully now. "I will not tolerate this level of paranoia in my own quarters. The supplies are from our medical bay, which I'm more than capable of accessing. As for the power issue, I suggest you direct your concerns to maintenance instead of disrupting my recovery." The other Rakari soldiers shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting between Ymir and Kraz. The lieutenant's expression resolute, his scales flushing a deeper shade of gray, in what Eugene assumed was the Rakari equivalent of embarrassment or frustration. "Of course, Commander," Kraz finally relented. "We'll conduct a thorough inspection of the outpost systems. My apologies for the disturbance." "See that it doesn't happen again," Ymir replied coldly. "Now leave me to rest." The patrol filed out of the room, the door sliding shut behind them with a soft hiss. Eugene waited for several tense moments, listening to ensure they had truly departed, before deactivating his cloaking device and emerging from his hiding spot. "That was too close," he murmured, moving swiftly to Ymir's side. Ymir's stoic expression melted away, replaced by a mix of relief and concern. "They'll be back," she said, her voice low. "Kraz isn't easily fooled. We don't have much time." Eugene nodded, his mind racing through their limited options. "I can't stay here, and after helping me, you're in danger too." Ymir's eyes met his, a silent understanding passing between them. She pushed herself off the bed, wincing slightly as she stood. "There's a secret passage, used for emergencies. It's our best chance." As Ymir moved to a seemingly featureless wall panel, Eugene's comm unit buzzed. He quickly accessed the encrypted message, his brow furrowing as he read. "My command is ordering an immediate abort," he explained, looking up at Ymir. "The situation's escalated beyond their initial intelligence." Ymir paused, her hand hovering over the hidden mechanism for the secret passage. "Then we both need to leave. Now." She activated her command interface, her fingers dancing over the holographic display. Alarms began blaring throughout the outpost, accompanied by a cacophony of false security alerts. "That should buy us some time and cover," Ymir said, turning back to the wall panel. With a series of precise movements, she triggered the hidden door, revealing a dimly lit passageway. Eugene quickly gathered supplies, fashioning makeshift weapons from the medical equipment and Ymir's personal items. As they prepared to enter the passage, the reality of their situation struck him. "Ymir," he said, his voice thick with the weight of what he was asking, "if you come with me, you're leaving everything behind. Your career, your people." Ymir met his gaze, her alien features set in drive. "I've seen enough war, Eugene. If there's a chance for something different, something better, I have to take it." With a nod, Eugene followed Ymir into the passage. The door sealed behind them, plunging them into near darkness, broken only by the soft bioluminescent glow of the walls. The distant sound of chaos in the outpost filtered through, a reminder of the urgency of their situation. They moved swiftly through the winding passage, Eugene marveling at the elegant efficiency of Rakari engineering. The air grew cooler as they descended, hinting at their approach to the outpost's lower levels. "The vehicle bay is just ahead," Ymir whispered, pausing at a junction. "Once we're there, my command codes should give us access to a scout ship." As they neared the exit, the sounds of the outpost grew louder. Shouts and the pounding of feet echoed through the corridors, punctuated by the continued wail of alarms. Eugene readied one of his makeshift weapons, a sharp length of metal that hummed with the energy he'd jury-rigged into it. Ymir input a series of commands into a panel by the exit, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. They emerged into the vast vehicle bay, rows of sleek Rakari ships stretching out before them. "There," Ymir pointed, indicating a smaller, faster-looking craft near the bay doors. "That's our best chance." They sprinted across the open space, acutely aware of their exposure. Just as they reached the ship, a shout rang out behind them. "Intruders in the vehicle bay!" Eugene turned to see a group of Rakari soldiers pouring into the area, led by the now familiar figure of Lieutenant Kraz. Weapons fire erupted around them, energy bolts sizzling past their heads. "Get us airborne!" Eugene yelled, providing covering fire with his makeshift weapon, as Ymir frantically input her command codes to start the ship. The engines roared to life just as Kraz and his soldiers closed in. The bay doors began to open, revealing the star-studded blackness of space beyond. Ymir's hands flew over the controls and the ship lifted off, narrowly avoiding a barrage of weapons fire. As they shot out of the bay and into open space, the sensor displays lit up with multiple signals. Rakari fighters were launching in pursuit. Eugene strapped himself into the co-pilot seat, his eyes darting between the pursuing ships and the vast, unknown expanse of space ahead. Ymir's face was a mask of concentration as she pushed the ship to its limits, attempting to outmaneuver their pursuers. "Any ideas where we're going?" Eugene asked, keenly aware that they were now fugitives from both their species. Ymir's eyes never left the controls as she responded. "I know of a neutral outpost in a nearby system. If we can lose our pursuers, we might find sanctuary there." As energy blasts from the Rakari fighters streaked past their ship, Eugene realized that their escape was just the beginning. They had set in motion events that would ripple across both their civilizations, potentially changing the course of the human-Rakari conflict forever. The stolen scout ship accelerated, carrying Eugene and Ymir towards an uncertain future. Behind them lay the wreckage of their former lives. Ahead, a galaxy of possibilities neither of them could have imagined just hours before. As the stars streaked by, Eugene found himself wondering what challenges awaited them, and how this unlikely partnership might reshape the destiny of two species. The vastness of space stretched before them, a canvas of stars and swirling nebulae. Eugene's hands flew over the unfamiliar controls, assisting Ymir as she piloted their stolen Rakari scout ship. The pursuing fighters were relentless, their energy weapons flashing past the cockpit in streaks of blinding light. "We can't outrun them forever," Eugene said, his eyes fixed on the sensor display. "Any ideas?" Ymir's scaled fingers danced across the navigation system. "There's an asteroid field ahead. It's risky, but it might give us the cover we need." As they approached the field, Eugene marveled at the sheer size of the asteroids. Some were as large as small moons, while others were no bigger than their ship. Ymir expertly maneuvered through the debris, her piloting skills on full display as she weaved between the massive rocks. The pursuing Rakari fighters hesitated at the edge of the field before plunging in after them. Eugene watched as one of the ships clipped an asteroid, spinning out of control before exploding in a brilliant flash. "They're not as familiar with this type of terrain," Ymir explained, her voice tight with concentration. "It gives us an advantage, but we're not safe yet." As if to emphasize her point, a stray bolt of energy from one of the pursuers grazed their ship's hull. Alarms blared as systems began to fail. "We're losing power to the main thrusters," Eugene reported, frantically trying to reroute energy from non-essential systems. Ymir's eyes darted to the navigation display. "There's a planet nearby, uncharted, but it's our only option now." They burst from the asteroid field, the planet looming before them. It was a vibrant blue and green orb, reminiscent of Earth but with unfamiliar continents. As they entered the atmosphere, the ship shuddered violently, pieces of the outer hull tearing away. "Brace for impact!" Ymir shouted as they plummeted towards a dense jungle canopy. The ship crashed through the trees, the screech of tearing metal drowning out all other sounds. Eugene's world became a blur of motion and jarring impacts before everything went black. When he regained consciousness, Eugene found himself slumped over the control panel. He groaned, pushing himself upright and taking stock of his injuries. Nothing seemed broken, but his body ached all over. "Ymir!" he called out, his voice hoarse. A muffled response came from behind him. He turned to see Ymir extracting herself from a tangle of cables and debris. "I'm here," she said, wincing as she stood. "We need to get out of the ship. There could be a fire." They gathered what supplies they could salvage: emergency rations, medical equipment, and some basic survival gear, before exiting the wreckage. The jungle that greeted them was unlike anything Eugene had ever seen. Bioluminescent plants pulsed with an otherworldly glow, casting eerie shadows in the dimming light. Eugene's military training kicked in as he surveyed their surroundings. "We need to find water and establish a defensible position," he said, already moving to scout the area. Ymir nodded, her alien features set in willpower. "I'll see what I can identify in terms of local flora and fauna. My xenobiology training should help us avoid anything immediately dangerous." They worked efficiently, Eugene using his combat knife to clear a path through the dense undergrowth. After about an hour of careful exploration, they found a small clearing near a bubbling stream. "This looks promising," Eugene said, dropping their salvaged gear. "We have fresh water, and the higher ground gives us a good vantage point." As Eugene set up a makeshift camp, Ymir examined the local plant life. She carefully collected samples, using a handheld scanner from their medical kit to analyze their composition. "Some of these appear to be edible," she reported, "and there are a few with medicinal properties. We should be able to supplement our rations." As night fell, the jungle came alive with strange sounds and pulsing bioluminescence. Eugene and Ymir sat close to their small campfire, alert for any signs of danger. "We should take turns standing watch," Eugene suggested, checking the charge on his makeshift weapon. Ymir agreed, her eyes scanning the darkness beyond their camp. "I'll take first watch. You need rest to recover from the crash." Eugene hesitated, reluctant to leave her alone, but exhaustion was setting in. He nodded, settling down near the fire but keeping his weapon close. As he drifted off to sleep, Eugene found himself marveling at the strange turn of events. Here he was, stranded on an alien planet with a Rakari commander, someone he would have considered an enemy just days ago. Yet now she was his only ally in this hostile world. A few hours later, Eugene was jolted awake by Ymir's urgent whisper. "Eugene, we have company." He was on his feet in an instant, weapon at the ready. In the flickering firelight, he saw movement at the edge of the clearing. Multiple pairs of eyes reflected the flames, low growls emanating from the darkness. "Predators," Ymir said quietly. "They're assessing us." Eugene nodded, his combat training taking over. "We need to make ourselves look bigger, more threatening. Can you tell me anything about their behavior?" Ymir's eyes narrowed as she studied the creatures. "Based on their pack formation, they likely rely on coordinated attacks. If we can disrupt their unity, we might stand a chance." As if on cue, one of the creatures lunged forward. In the firelight, Eugene caught a glimpse of sleek, scaled bodies and razor-sharp claws. He swung his weapon, the energy field crackling as it connected with the attacker. Ymir moved with surprising agility, using a long branch as a staff to fend off another creature. Her understanding of alien behavior patterns proved invaluable as she anticipated their movements. The battle was intense but brief. Eugene's combat skills and Ymir's insights allowed them to repel the pack, leaving several of the creatures wounded or unconscious. As the remaining predators retreated into the jungle, Eugene and Ymir stood back to back, breathing heavily. The adrenaline of the fight slowly faded, replaced by a profound sense of relief and camaraderie. "We make a good team," Eugene said, turning to face Ymir. She met his gaze, a new respect evident in her alien eyes. Indeed we do. I'm glad you're here, Eugene. As they tended to their minor injuries and reinforced their camp, Eugene found himself reflecting on their rapidly evolving relationship. The shared danger had forged a bond between them that transcended their species' conflict. With the immediate threat past, they turned their attention to their long-term survival and the possibility of rescue. Eugene examined their damaged communication equipment, his brow furrowed in concentration. If we can repair this, we might be able to send out a distress signal, he mused. But we'll need to boost the power significantly to penetrate the planet's atmosphere. Ymir nodded, her own thoughts racing. We should explore the surrounding area more thoroughly. This planet may have resources we can use. As dawn broke, casting the alien jungle in a soft purple light, Eugene and Ymir prepared for another day of survival and discovery. Neither of them could have anticipated the ancient secrets hidden in the depths of this uncharted world, nor the challenges that lay ahead as they worked to send their call for help out into the cosmos. Their eyes met as they stood at the edge of their camp, ready to venture deeper into the unknown. In that moment, despite the danger and uncertainty, both felt a spark of excitement. Whatever they would face it together, a human and a Rakari, united by circumstance and growing trust. As Eugene and Ymir ventured deeper into the alien jungle, their growing bond was suddenly interrupted by a crackling sound from Eugene's salvage communication device. To their shock, it was Lieutenant Sarah Boyd's voice cutting through the static. Eugene, Ymir, do you copy? We've tracked your crash site and are approaching your location. Eugene and Ymir exchanged surprised glances before Eugene responded, Boyd, how did you find us? Long story short, I decided to follow my conscience instead of orders. Boyd's voice came through clearer as her ship neared. I'm here to get you out. Within minutes, Boyd's sleek human light attack ship descended through the canopy, touching down in a small clearing nearby. As Boyd emerged from the cockpit, Eugene noticed the tension in her posture and the purpose in her eyes. We don't have much time, Boyd said urgently. The Rakari warship is in orbit, and they're not happy. We need to move fast. As they boarded Boyd's ship, Eugene briefed her on the ancient alien ruins they had discovered during their exploration of the planet. There's technology there that could change everything, he explained. Boyd nodded grimly. Then that's our first stop. We might need an edge to get out of this mess. The ship lifted off, skimming over the dense jungle canopy towards the ruins. As they approached, Ymir's eyes widened in recognition. Those symbols? They're similar to some ancient Rakari texts I've studied. They landed near the ruins, and the trio quickly made their way inside. Eugene and Ymir guided Boyd through the chambers they had explored earlier, eventually reaching a central room dominated by a pulsing, crystalline structure. This is it, Eugene said, gesturing to the alien device. We think it's some kind of energy emitter, but we couldn't activate it before. Ymir stepped forward, her scaled fingers tracing the intricate patterns on the device's surface. With the ship's power source, we might be able to jumpstart it. Working quickly, they connected the device to the ship's systems. As power flowed into the ancient technology, it hummed to life, emitting a soft blue glow. Suddenly, alarms blared from Boyd's ship. The Rakari warship is entering the atmosphere, Boyd reported, checking her wrist computer. We're out of time. Eugene looked at Ymir, a silent understanding passing between them. Let's hope this works, he said, activating the alien device. A wave of energy pulsed outward, and for a moment, everything electronic went dead. Then, as quickly as it had faded, power returned to their systems. It worked, Boyd exclaimed, checking her instruments. The Rakari ship's systems are temporarily offline. This is our chance. They sprinted back to the ship, Boyd taking the pilot's seat while Eugene and Ymir manned the secondary stations. The engines roared to life and they shot upward, breaking through the atmosphere. As they cleared the planet's gravitational pull, they saw the massive Rakari warship floating dead in space, its lights flickering as systems slowly came back online. Impressive, Ymir murmured, watching the ship that had once been her home. Their relief was short-lived. As they maneuvered past the disabled warship, its lights suddenly blazed back to full power. A harsh voice crackled over their comms. Commander Zax. Traitors, he roared. You will not escape the consequences of your actions. The warship's weapons systems came online, filling space with a barrage of energy bolts. Boyd's hands flew over the controls, the small ship dancing between the deadly beams. Eugene, Ymir, I need you on weapons and shields, Boyd shouted as she executed a series of evasive maneuvers. Eugene's military training kicked in as he took control of the weapons systems. Ymir, drawing on her knowledge of Rakari technology, worked to integrate some of their shield modulators into the human ship's defenses. As Boyd's expert piloting kept them just ahead of the Rakari's onslaught, Eugene's targeting computer beeped. He had a clear shot at the warship's main weapon array. His finger hovered over the trigger, years of combat training urging him to take the shot. But something held him back, the memory of the trust that had grown between him and Ymir, the hope for a different future. In that moment of hesitation, Eugene's console lit up with an incoming transmission. The encrypted message scrolled across his screen, and as he read, his blood ran cold. Boyd, Ymir, he called out, his voice tight. We have another problem. I just received a message from Admiral Hawthorne. My original mission. It wasn't what I thought it was. As energy bolts rocked their small ship, Eugene quickly relayed the contents of the message, revealing the true nature of his mission and the machinations of the human military leadership. Ymir's alien features registered shock, then a grim understanding. It seems both our leaders have been less than honest with us, she said, her voice tinged with bitterness. Boyd's eyes sharp as she executed another evasive maneuver. So what do we do now? Eugene's mind raced, considering their options. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and now, it seemed, betrayed by their own people. Yet in this moment of crisis, a plan began to form. We tell everyone, he said, his voice gaining strength. Both sides. If we're going to have any chance of stopping this war, we need to expose the truth. Ymir nodded in agreement, her eyes meeting Eugene's with a mix of grit and trust. Do it, she said simply. Eugene's fingers flew over the console as he prepared a wideband transmission. As Boyd continued to evade the Rakari warship's relentless assault, Eugene took a deep breath and began to speak, his words broadcast across human and Rakari frequencies alike. This is Lieutenant Eugene Chen of the Human Defense Force, he began, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. I have a message for all human and Rakari forces in this sector. We've been lied to. As Eugene's message spread across the stars, the battle around them began to change. Some ships ceased fire, while others intensified their attacks. In the midst of the growing chaos, a new group of ships appeared on their sensors, a mix of human and Rakari vessels moving in formation. This is Captain Jorakal, a new voice came over their comms. We've heard your message, Lieutenant Chen. We're here to help. As Jorakal's ships moved to intercept the attacking vessels, Boyd saw an opportunity. With their engines beginning to fail and shields on the verge of collapse, she made a split-second decision. Hold on, she shouted, diverting all remaining power to the engines. The small ship lurched forward, using the gravity of a nearby moon to slingshot away from their pursuers. The maneuver bought them precious seconds, just enough time for Jorakal's vessels to form a protective barrier around their damaged ship. As the firefight continued around them, Eugene, Ymir, and Boyd found themselves at the center of a growing storm that threatened to reshape the future of human-Rakari relations. Aboard Jorakal's ship, as engineering teams worked to stabilize their damaged vessel, Eugene and Ymir shared a moment of quiet amidst the chaos. Their eyes met, both recognizing the weight of what they had set in motion and the challenges that lay ahead. But their reprieve was short-lived. Alarms blared throughout the ship as new contacts appeared on the long-range sensors. It seemed that hardliners from both sides, unwilling to let go of the conflict, were mobilizing to quash the fledgling peace movement. As Jorakal's crew prepared for the coming confrontation, Eugene and Ymir stood side by side on the bridge, their unlikely alliance now the spark of hope for both their species. The next few hours would determine not just their fate, but the future of human-Rakari relations. The real battle, it seemed, was just beginning. Eugene cut off his transmission abruptly as the ship rocked violently, nearly throwing him from his seat. Multiple contacts incoming, Boyd shouted, her hands dancing across the controls. We've got company from both sides. Through the view screen, Eugene and Emir watched as a swarm of ships materialized around them. Human and Rakari vessels alike closed in, weapons primed and locked on their position. This is Captain Jorakal, a new voice crackled over the comms. We've heard your message, Lieutenant Chen. We're here to help. A mixed fleet of human and Rakari ships surged forward, forming a protective barrier around their damaged vessel. Energy beams and plasma bolts crisscrossed the void as Jorakal's ships engaged the attackers. Boyd seized the moment, diverting all remaining power to the engines. Hold on, she yelled as their small ship lurched forward, using the gravity of a nearby moon to slingshot away from the melee. The maneuver bought them precious seconds, just enough time for Jorakal's vessels to close ranks around them. As the firefight intensified, Eugene, Emir, and Boyd found themselves at the epicenter of a storm that threatened to reshape the future of human-Rakari relations. Their battered ship limped into Jorakal's hangar bay, venting atmosphere and trailing debris. The moment they touched down, engineering teams swarmed the vessel, working to stabilize its failing systems. In a quiet moment amidst the chaos, Eugene and Emir shared a look of mutual understanding. The weight of what they had set in motion hung heavy between them, along with the unspoken recognition of the challenges that lay ahead. Their reprieve was short-lived. Alarms blared throughout the ship as new contacts appeared on the long-range sensors. Hardliners from both factions, unwilling to relinquish the conflict, were mobilizing en masse. Captain Jorakal's voice rang out over the ship-wide comm system. All hands to battle stations. We have multiple hostile fleets incoming. Eugene and Emir rushed to the bridge, arriving just as the main view screen lit up with the ominous sight of dozens of warships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They're hailing us, a communications officer announced. Jorakal nodded grimly. On screen. The face that appeared was familiar to Eugene, Admiral Hawthorne, his expression a mask of cold fury. Lieutenant Chen, you are hereby ordered to surrender yourself and the Rakari specimen immediately. Failure to comply will be considered an act of high treason. Before Eugene could respond, another transmission cut in. Commander Zax's scaled visage filled half the screen, his eyes burning with hardly restrained rage. Emir, you have betrayed your people. Return to us now, or face the consequences of your actions. Jorakal stepped forward, his voice firm. Neither Eugene nor Emir will be handed over. We stand for peace, and we will not be intimidated by threats. The twin images of Hawthorne and Zax vanished, replaced by the sight of their fleets advancing. All ships, defensive formation Delta, Jorakal ordered. Prepare for engagement. The bridge erupted into a flurry of activity as officers relayed orders and manned their stations. Eugene and Emir found themselves at adjacent tactical consoles, their earlier cooperation in the jungle now translating to the vastness of space. Eugene, I'm routing Rakari fleet movements to your station, Emir said, her fingers flying over the controls. Can you coordinate our defensive screen? Eugene nodded, already analyzing the data. On it, I'm seeing a pattern in their attack vectors. If we adjust our formation here and here, we can create a kill box. As the battle unfolded, Eugene's tactical expertise meshed seamlessly with Emir's intimate knowledge of Rakari battle strategies. Together, they anticipated and countered enemy maneuvers, their coordination drawing admiring glances from both human and Rakari crew members. The space around them lit up with weapons fire as Jorakal's peace-seeking ships clashed with the incoming fleets. Despite being outnumbered, their united front held firm against the onslaught. Just as it seemed they might be overwhelmed, a massive new ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the battlefield. Its design was unlike anything Eugene or Emir had ever seen, sleek, asymmetrical, and jam-packed with unfamiliar technology. Unknown vessel, identify yourself, Jorakal demanded. The reply came in the form of a system-wide broadcast. A holographic image materialized on the bridge, an imposing alien figure with iridescent skin and multiple sets of eyes. I am Zorak, emissary of the Galactic Confederation. We have been monitoring your conflict and can no longer stand idle. The Confederation offers to mediate peace talks between humans and Rakari, with Lieutenant Eugene Chen and diplomat Ymir as key participants. The announcement sent shockwaves through the fleet. Weapons fire ceased as both sides considered the implications of Confederation involvement. Eugene and Ymir exchanged a look of cautious hope. This could be the breakthrough they needed. "We need to get aboard that Confederation ship," Eugene said quietly. Ymir nodded. "Agreed, but how? We're surrounded by those who would see us dead before we could change the course of this war." As if in answer to their dilemma, a priority alert flashed on their consoles. Intelligence reports indicated that assassination teams from both human and Rakari Black Ops units had infiltrated the nearby vessels. "They're coming for us," Eugene muttered, his mind racing. "We need a plan." Ymir's eyes narrowed in concentration. "The shuttle bay. If we can reach it, we might be able to use a small craft to slip past the fleets." Eugene nodded, already plotting their course. "It's risky, but it might be our only shot. Let's move." As they made their way through the ship's corridors, alarms blared once more. The temporary ceasefire was breaking down, and the battle was about to resume with renewed ferocity. Eugene and Ymir reached the shuttle bay just as the first impacts rocked the ship. They quickly boarded a sleek, stealthy craft designed for covert operations. "I'll pilot," Eugene said, sliding into the cockpit. "You handle the systems and keep an eye out for hostiles." Ymir took her place at the co-pilot station, her scaled fingers dancing across the unfamiliar controls with surprising dexterity. As the bay doors opened, revealing the chaotic battlefield beyond, Eugene gripped the controls tightly. "Here goes nothing," he muttered, engaging the engines. The shuttle shot out into space, immediately engulfed by the swirling melee of capital ships and fighters. Eugene's piloting skills were put to the test as he wove through the combat zone, relying on the shuttle's stealth systems and Ymir's guidance to avoid detection. They had almost reached the midpoint between the fleets when a familiar voice crackled over their comms. Well, Eugene, I never took you for a traitor." Eugene's blood ran cold as he recognized the voice. "Major Kane," he replied, his voice tight. A sleek black ops fighter decloaked directly in their path, its weapons primed and locked on their position. "Did you really think you could just walk away?" Kane's voice dripped with contempt. "It's time to face the consequences of your actions." As Kane opened fire, Eugene threw the shuttle into a series of evasive maneuvers. The small craft bucked and shuddered under the assault, systems flashing warnings across the cockpit displays. "Our shields are failing," Ymir reported, her voice calm despite the danger. "We can't take much more of this." Eugene's mind raced, searching for a way out. In the distance, he spotted a sprawling space station, a neutral trading post that served as a hub for various alien species. "Ymir, can you get us emergency clearance to dock at that station?" he asked, already plotting an approach vector. Ymir nodded, quickly opening a channel to the station's traffic control. As she spoke, her diplomatic training evident in every measured word, Eugene pushed the damaged shuttle to its limits. Kane's relentless pursuit continued, his superior ship closing the gap with each passing second. Warning klaxons blared as their oxygen levels began to drop, the shuttle's hull integrity compromised by the attack. "We're cleared for emergency docking," Ymir announced, her usual composure slipping as she eyed the rapidly approaching station. Eugene gritted his teeth, pushing the shuttle's failing engines to their absolute limit. The space station loomed larger in their view screen, its docking bay a beacon of hope in the chaos of battle. With a final burst of speed, they shot past the station's defensive perimeter. Kane broke off his pursuit, unwilling to risk an international incident by following them into neutral territory. Their relief was short-lived as Eugene struggled to control their descent into the docking bay. With most systems offline and their engines sputtering, the shuttle careened towards the deck. "Brace for impact," Eugene shouted as he fought the controls. The shuttle slammed into the deck with a screech of tearing metal, skidding across the bay before coming to a shuddering halt against a stack of cargo containers. For a moment, all was silent save for the hiss of escaping atmosphere and the crackle of electrical fires. Then, with a groan of protesting metal, the shuttle's hatch swung open. Eugene and Ymir stumbled out, battered and bruised but alive. As the smoke cleared, they found themselves surrounded by a kaleidoscope of alien life forms, all watching the unfolding drama with a mix of curiosity and concern. As station security forces rushed towards them, Eugene and Emir shared a look of unbreakable spirit. They had made it this far, but their journey was just the beginning. Somewhere beyond the walls of this alien outpost, the Confederation ship waited, their last, best hope for peace. With the eyes of a dozen species upon them, Eugene and Emir straightened their postures, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The fate of two civilizations now rested on their ability to navigate this new, alien landscape and make their case to the galactic community. Eugene and Emir barely had time to catch their breath before the station's security forces surrounded them, weapons raised. The aliens' varied anatomies and unfamiliar uniforms added to the surreal nature of their predicament. "Stand down and identify yourselves," barked a tall, multi-limbed creature with iridescent skin. Its voice translator crackled with static, a testament to the recent battle damage. Eugene raised his hand slowly, nudging Emir to do the same. "I'm Lieutenant Eugene Chen of the Human Alliance, and this is Diplomat Emir of the Rakari Confederation. We seek asylum and assistance in reaching the Galactic Confederation ship." The security chief's multiple eyes narrowed, focusing on the unlikely pair. "I am Chief Security Officer Krell. Follow me, and do not attempt any sudden movements." As they were escorted through the station's winding corridors, Eugene's military training kicked in. He scanned their surroundings, noting potential escape routes and choke points. The diversity of alien life forms bustling around them was staggering. Creatures of all shapes, sizes, and compositions going about their business in the interstellar trading post. Emir leaned close, her scales brushing against Eugene's arm. "We're being followed," she whispered, her keen senses picking up on subtle movements in the crowd. Eugene nodded imperceptibly, having noticed the same thing. A group of nondescript humanoids and reptilians had been tailing them since they left the docking bay. "Stay alert," he murmured back. They reached the security office, a stark contrast to the chaotic marketplace outside. Clean lines and advanced technology filled the space, with holographic displays showing various sections of the station. Krell settled behind a large desk, his multiple limbs working in concert to activate several interfaces. "Explain yourselves," he demanded, his tone leaving no room for evasion. Eugene stepped forward, his posture straight and voice clear. "Sir, we're on a critical mission to broker peace between our species. The Galactic Confederation has offered to mediate talks, but forces from both sides are trying to prevent us from reaching them." Emir joined in, her diplomatic training evident in every measured word. "Our presence here is not by choice, but by necessity. We crash-landed while escaping assassination attempts. We must reach the Confederation ship before it's too late." Krell's expression remained impassive, but his upper set of eyes narrowed slightly. "This station maintains strict neutrality in all interspecies conflicts. We cannot involve ourselves in your war." Before Eugene could argue further, an alarm blared through the office. One of Krell's subordinates rushed in, panic evident in their frantic movements. "Chief, multiple warships detected on approach, human and Rakari signatures." Krell's demeanor shifted instantly from skeptical to alert. He turned to Eugene and Emir, his earlier reluctance replaced by iron will. "It seems your conflict has followed you here. We cannot allow this station to become a battleground." As if to punctuate his words, a violent tremor shook the station. The lights flickered, and distant explosions could be heard. "We're under attack," the subordinate cried out. "Multiple breaches reported in sectors 3 through 7. Krell stood, his large frame towering over them. "It appears I have no choice but to assist you in leaving this station. The faster you're gone, the sooner we can restore order." Another explosion rocked the station, closer this time. Alarms blared as emergency protocols engaged, sealing off damaged sections. "We need to move, now!" Eugene shouted over the cacophony. Krell nodded, grabbing a weapons cache from a nearby locker. "Follow me. We'll take you to the emergency shuttle bays." They rushed out into the corridor, now filled with panicked aliens fleeing the spreading chaos. Eugene and Emir stayed close to Krell and his security team, their senses on high alert for any sign of their pursuers. As they rounded a corner, a group of heavily armed humans blocked their path. Eugene recognized their insignias, Black Ops, likely sent by his former superiors. "Chen," the lead operative called out, "stand down and surrender the Rakari." Eugene's response was swift. He dove for cover behind a bulkhead, pulling Ymir with him as plasma bolts seared the air where they had stood. Krell and his team returned fire, their alien weapons emitting strange, concussive blasts that sent the human operatives scrambling. The firefight intensified, with both sides trading volleys in the confined space of the station's corridor. Eugene spotted a maintenance hatch nearby and caught Ymir's eye, gesturing towards it. She nodded in understanding. "Krell!" Eugene shouted over the din of battle. "We need to split up. Can you hold them off while we find another route?" The security chief's multiple limbs worked in perfect coordination, firing his weapon while operating a comm device. "Agreed. We'll rendezvous at Shuttle Bay 12. Go!" Eugene and Ymir made a break for the maintenance hatch, ducking and weaving through the crossfire. As they slipped into the narrow service tunnel, a massive explosion rocked the station. The bulkhead behind them collapsed, sealing off their escape route and cutting them off from Krell and his team. Darkness enveloped them, broken only by the dim emergency lighting. Eugene activated a small flashlight on his wrist device, illuminating Ymir's concerned face. "We're cut off," she said, her voice tight with tension. Eugene nodded grimly. "But we're not out of options. These maintenance tunnels should run throughout the station. We can use them to reach the shuttle bay." As they began to navigate the cramped passageways, the sounds of battle echoed distantly through the station's superstructure. Eugene's mind raced, formulating and discarding plans as they encountered one blocked route after another. Ymir suddenly grabbed his arm, her scales cool against his skin. "Listen," she hissed. Eugene strained his ears, picking up the faint sound of voices ahead, speaking Rakari. He looked at Ymir, seeing his own commitment reflected in her alien eyes. Without a word, they both understood the challenge that lay ahead. As they crept forward, the station groaned around them, a sobering reminder of the destruction spreading through its once peaceful halls. Eugene and Ymir pressed on, their unlikely alliance now the only hope for ending the conflict that threatened to tear apart not just their own civilizations, but the delicate balance of this neutral outpost. The voices grew louder, and Eugene tightened his grip on his weapon. Whatever came next, he knew that their actions here would shape the future of human-Rakari relations, and perhaps the destiny of the universe itself. Eugene and Ymir pressed forward through the maintenance tunnel, their breathing heavy in the confined space. The voices of the Rakari pursuers grew louder, echoing off the metal walls. Eugene held up a hand, signaling Ymir to stop. They crouched in silence, listening intently. "They must have come this way," a gruff Rakari voice said. "Spread out and search every branch." Eugene's mind raced, formulating a plan. He spotted a junction ahead with one path leading upwards. He tapped Ymir's arm and pointed. She nodded, understanding his intent without words. They moved swiftly but silently, reaching the junction just as the sound of heavy footsteps approached from behind. Eugene boosted Ymir up into the vertical shaft, then scrambled up after her. They climbed as quietly as possible, muscles straining with each movement. Suddenly, the shaft opened into a wider space. Eugene realized they had entered a ventilation hub. Multiple ducts stretched out in different directions, large enough for them to crawl through. "This way," Ymir whispered, her keen sense of direction guiding them. "I can smell the residual fuel from the shuttle bay." They navigated the maze of ducts, the sounds of pursuit growing fainter behind them. After what felt like an eternity of crawling through the claustrophobic passages, they reached a grate overlooking a vast hangar. Eugene peered through the slats. The shuttle bay was a hive of activity, with various species rushing to evacuate the damaged station. He spotted Krell and his security team near a sleek, arrow-shaped craft. "There's our ride," Eugene said, pointing to the shuttle. "But we'll have to time this perfectly." Ymir nodded, her scales shifting color slightly in anticipation. "On your mark, Eugene." He counted down silently, then kicked the grate with all his strength. It clattered to the floor, drawing startled looks from those nearby. Eugene and Ymir dropped down, landing in a crouch. Chen! Emir! Over here! Krell called out, waving multiple limbs. They sprinted across the hangar, dodging panicked aliens and scattered debris. Just as they reached Krell, a group of human operatives burst through a side entrance, weapons raised. Go! Eugene shouted, pushing Emir towards the shuttle's open hatch. He turned, drawing his own weapon to provide covering fire. Krell joined him, his alien weaponry unleashing a barrage that forced the operatives to take cover. Get to the shuttle, Krell ordered. We'll hold them off. Eugene hesitated for a split second, then nodded gratefully. He backed into the shuttle where Emir was already prepping for launch. Krell, Eugene called out, thank you. The security chief's multiple eyes blinked in acknowledgement. Good luck, humans and Rakari. May your mission bring peace to us all. The shuttle's hatch sealed shut as plasma bolts sizzled through the air. Emir's hands danced over the unfamiliar controls, bringing the engines to life. The craft lifted off, rotating towards the bay's force field exit. Hang on, Emir warned, then punched the throttle. They shot out of the bay, emerging into the star-filled expanse of space. The battle still raged around the station, with human and Rakari ships exchanging fire. Emir deftly maneuvered through the chaos, her piloting skills adapting quickly to the alien craft. Eugene scanned the sensor readings, searching for their destination. There, he exclaimed, pointing to a massive shape looming in the distance. The Confederation ship! As they approached, the true scale of the vessel became apparent. It dwarfed even the largest human and Rakari warships, its sleek design unlike anything Eugene had ever seen. A communication channel crackled to life. Unidentified shuttle, this is the Galactic Confederation vessel Harmony. State your identity and intentions. Emir responded, her voice calm and clear. This is Diplomat Emir of the Rakari Confederation and Lieutenant Eugene Chen of the Human Alliance. We seek asylum and request permission to dock. There was a pause, then the voice returned. Acknowledged. You are cleared for docking in Bay 17. Welcome aboard, Diplomat Emir and Lieutenant Chen. As they approached the enormous docking bay, Eugene and Emir shared a look of relief and anticipation. They had made it this far against impossible odds, but both knew that the real challenge was about to begin. The shuttle touched down gently in the pristine bay. As the engines powered down, Eugene took a deep breath. Ready? He asked Emir. She placed a scaled hand on his arm, her touch reassuring. Together, she replied. The shuttle's hatch opened with a hiss, revealing a delegation of aliens waiting to greet them. At the forefront stood a tall, imposing figure with iridescent scales and multiple eyes, Commander Zorak. Eugene and Emir stepped out, standing side by side as they faced the Confederation representatives. The fate of their species, and perhaps the entire galaxy, now rested on what would happen next. Commander Zorak stepped forward, his multiple eyes focusing on the unlikely pair. Welcome aboard the Harmony, he said, his voice a low rumble. I am Commander Zorak. We have much to discuss. Commander Zorak's words hung in the air as Eugene and Emir stepped onto the pristine deck of the Harmony. The enormity of their situation hit Eugene like a physical force. They were aboard a Galactic Confederation vessel, about to change the course of history. We have much to discuss, Zorak continued, gesturing with one of his many limbs. Follow me to the briefing room. As they walked through the ship's winding corridors, Eugene marveled at the advanced technology surrounding them. Holographic displays flickered with information in dozens of alien languages, and crew members of various species moved with practiced efficiency. In the briefing room, Eugene and Emir recounted their harrowing journey, providing crucial intelligence on the escalating conflict between humans and Rakari. Commander Zorak listened intently, his multiple eyes blinking in what Eugene assumed was thoughtful consideration. Your testimony is invaluable, Zorak said after they finished. The Confederation has been monitoring this situation closely, but your first-hand accounts provide the context we needed. We will intervene to broker a ceasefire. The next few days passed in a blur of meetings, negotiations, and tense moments as the Confederation leveraged its considerable influence to halt the fighting. Eugene and Emir worked tirelessly, serving as liaisons between their respective governments and the Confederation mediators. Finally, after a grueling week of diplomacy, a ceasefire was declared. As the dust settled, Eugene found himself staring out a viewport at the stars, lost in thought. Ymir approached, her scaled hand coming to rest on his shoulder. "We did it," she said softly. "It's not peace yet, but it's a start." Eugene nodded, turning to face her. "Yeah, but there's still so much work to do." 6 months later, Eugene stepped out of the shuttle onto the surface of New Harmony, a lush, Earth-like planet chosen as neutral ground for the ongoing peace negotiations. Ymir followed close behind, her scales shimmering in the planet's golden sunlight. "Home sweet home," Eugene murmured, taking in the sight of the gleaming buildings that house the diplomatic corps and support staff. Their shared living quarters were modest but comfortable, a practical space that had become their sanctuary over the past months. As they entered, Eugene couldn't help but reflect on how far they'd come, from enemies to reluctant allies, and now to something he couldn't quite define. Days blurred together in a constant cycle of meetings, negotiations, and strategy sessions. Eugene and Ymir worked tirelessly, pushing for understanding and compromise between their species. Progress was slow, often frustratingly so, but they pressed on. One evening, after a particularly grueling negotiation session, Eugene found Ymir pacing in their quarters, her agitation evident in the rapid color changes rippling across her scales. "Ymir, what's wrong?" he asked, concern etched on his face. She turned to him, her alien features contorted in what he'd learned to recognize as distress. "I fear we're wasting our time, Eugene. The mistrust runs so deep. How can we hope to overcome centuries of conflict?" Eugene stepped closer, his hand hovering near hers. "Look how far we've come already. Remember when we first met? If someone had told me then that I'd be living with a Rakari, working to build peace between our people, I'd have thought they were crazy." He gently took her hand, marveling at how natural it felt now. "We're proof that change is possible." Ymir's scales flushed with warmth at his touch, her physiological response impossible to hide. She opened her mouth to respond, but a sharp beep from their communication console interrupted the moment. Eugene reluctantly released Ymir's hand and activated the console. Sarah Boyd's face appeared on the screen, her expression grim. "Eugene, Ymir, we have a situation," she said without preamble. "Hardliners from both sides have launched an attack on the main government complex. They're trying to derail the peace process." Eugene's mind snapped into tactical mode. "We're on our way. Send us the details as we move." As they raced towards the complex, Eugene's mind whirled with possibilities. Who was behind this? How had they coordinated such an attack? The scene that greeted them was chaos. Smoke billowed from several buildings, and the sound of weapons fire echoed through the streets. Eugene and Ymir shared a look of perseverance before plunging into the fray. They moved as one, years of training and months of working together, allowing them to anticipate each other's actions. Eugene's quick reflexes complemented Ymir's strength and agility perfectly. They fought their way through waves of insurgents, human and Rakari alike, protecting civilians and fellow peacekeepers. As they pushed deeper into the complex, Eugene spotted a familiar face, Major Darius Kane, his former superior officer. Beside Kane stood a high-ranking Rakari, both coordinating the attack with cold efficiency. "Kane!" Eugene shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "It's over! Stand down!" Kane's head snapped around, his eyes widening in recognition. "Chen! You traitorous bastard!" The Major raised his weapon, but Eugene was already moving. He dodged the first shot, closing the distance between them in a heartbeat. Ymir engaged the Rakari leader, her movements a blur of lethal grace. Eugene and Kane grappled, each trying to gain the upper hand. Out of the corner of his eye, Eugene saw Ymir take a glancing blow from her opponent. The sight of her stumbling back ignited something primal within him. With a surge of strength, Eugene disarmed Kane, sending the Major's weapon skittering across the floor. A well-placed strike left Kane dazed and on his knees. Ymir, despite her injury, managed to subdue the Rakari officer with a series of lightning-fast moves. As the last echoes of the battle faded, Eugene rushed to her side. "Are you all right?" he asked, his hands gentle as he examined her wound. Emir nodded, her eyes locked on his. I'm fine, thanks to you. In that moment, with adrenaline still coursing through their veins, something shifted between them. Eugene cupped Emir's face in his hands, and without hesitation, they kissed. It was a release of months of tension, fear, and unspoken feelings. As they broke apart, both slightly dazed, Sarah's voice crackled over their comms. Eugene, Emir, status report. Eugene cleared his throat, trying to regain his composure. Situation under control, Sarah. We've captured the ringleaders. Send in the cleanup crew. As they watched the security team secure the area and tend to the wounded, Eugene took Emir's hand in his. Whatever came next, they would face it together.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.